good. So, trig folks, today in class we'll do an SAS program, and then for homework you're going to do an SSS program. At the end of this week there will be a quiz that if these programs work, it'll be the easiest quiz you ever took in your life. It'll be the exact same layout as the quiz you did pencil and paper, but it'll be program only. So if your programs are working, when you test them, you'll get an A+. If you're not testing your programs, you may be in for a surprise, a frustrating surprise when nothing works out. So you want to be testing these in your nights as you do them, and that's how I figure out if your programs work. The quadratic, I came around and actually held it and pushed buttons and tried it. I'm not going to do that with these 6. I'm just going to give you a quiz, and if they work, it'll become obvious that they work. So which facts could we have known to make an SAS kind of scenario?
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Somebody else give me another trio of facts other than 1, 2, 3 that would make an SAS triangle.
4, 5, 6. Nope, never mind.
That's
3, 4, 5.
3, 4, 5. These two with the angle in between them. And then what's the third combo?
5, 6, 1.
Other than 1, 2, 3 and 3, 4, 5.
5, 6, 1.
5, 6, 1. These two sides and the angle that's in between them. We'll go with these first, just because that was what was told to us first. So we'll act like those are our known things, and then we'll try to get the other stuff. How do you think? Well, let's do this question before I nudge over there. Yesterday we had one relationship we had to preserve in the program we wrote together, because we had an opposite pair where we wanted to maintain the knowledge of that relationship. Do we have anything here like that? No. So we can just kind of ask for whatever. If we knew 2 and 5, we'd have to maintain knowledge of their oppositeness. Likewise 1 and 4, or likewise 3 and 6. But there's nothing that we want to keep them paired off because there are no partners like that. So how are we going to start this and pretty much every program?
Display.
Display.
Enter side.
Enter side.
A. Display. Enter other side. Input. B. Display. Enter angle. Input. C.
So there's our traditional display input, display input, display input. What mistake did I make on purpose?
Quote. Not putting quote.
Quotes. Now what?
So now.
Math. Which item would we try to get, or which law would we try to use? Where are we going?
Law of sines.
We have a difference of opinions from the gallery.
No.
We've got one law of cosine opinion and one law of sine opinion.
Not law of sines.
Why not law of sines?
Because you don't have an opposite pair.
Yeah, we need an opposite pair where we know them both to use law of sines. So this is not law of sines, it's definitely law of cosines. So in our scratch work zone, how's it going to start? Yes, go ahead.
A squared.
Keep
Sorry.
on. Maybe.
Okay. Equals
A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2AB cosine.
That's C, so no.
Do we have to come up with making a D?
Well, something needs to be a D, yeah. We'll need a because we're using this to figure something out, right?
D
So
squared.
the thing that we don't know is gonna have to be a variable, so we could call that D if you like.
D squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2 times A times B cosine C.
There you go. Why'd you focus on this one?
Because it was across from the C.
Yeah. We need an opposite pair still, where we don't have to know them both, the way we do with law of sines, but they at least both need names. So we need an angle and a side that they have some kind of a name. So D squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cosine C. And what's the one that we don't know right now? The D. How are we going to get the D to be known?
Root everything.
Root everything that we just had. So I'll take a stroll over here. Root A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cosine C. And then yesterday we had a new thing happen that had never happened in the other program. What was that?
Store.
Store. This one, do we want to store the D, or can we get away without it? What do you think?
Store D.
Why do you think that? I agree.
Because it's going to get you an angle.
It's going to get used to get us the angles. We're going to need for the D to have a name to be able to continue to move forward and get those angles. Before I nudge back to the scratch work zone though, what should we do? Display.
Answer is
A little better.
side is.
Side is.
Display. D.
D or answer button, either one. Something about that. So stroll on left. This is now known. We're going to have to go get ourselves one of these angles. Does it matter which one?
No.
Not really. They're both just sort of random angles. So pick one.
6.
6. Give that a name.
E.
How are we going to try to get that angle?
Law of sines.
It's tempting. Hesitate though. Law of sines feels like it maybe came in play because we do have an opposite pair now where we know them both. But why did I put a hold on us?
We don't know if it's a Q.
We don't know if it's a Q. Because all we have to base our knowledge on is A's, B's, C's, and B's. Okay? If we had numbers to look at, would one of these be acute for sure? Yeah, like if we knew what the numbers were, we would know which one is acute, but we don't know what the numbers are. We just have A, B, C's, D's. We don't know. So what are we going to have to settle for?
Law of cosine.
Law of cosine. Focus on these, because those are the ones that are opposite each other. E is what we're after.
E squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cosine E.
Where which one is the one that we're after?
E.
E. We're trying to solve that for E. How would we try to solve that for E?
End up doing second cosine.
Eventually, but not yet.
Get A and D on the left side.
Okay, so what would that look like?
B squared minus A squared minus D squared.
So we'd have to subtract those two out of there. So we'd have B squared minus the A squared minus the D squared. Get them out. I like that. Divided by the negative 2AD. This thing is going to have to go to the bottom. And then to get rid of cosine, inverse cosine. Okay, inverse cosine will do that for us. It'll force us to do that. This is the negative button, not the subtract, so I'm going to do my weird thing I did last time when we had those. These are subtract minuses and all of these other swaps. This is the negative minus there. And that has punctuation issues that we need to resolve.
Parentheses at the end of the D squared.
Here,
No.
The second set of parentheses in between the B and the other parentheses. And then an end after the B.
so you want to start, where were you starting a new set?
Parentheses at the
Or
top.
B,
Okay, so before the B, he wants to start a new set,
and then after the B,
and after this D or this D?
the first D.
I agree with that, right? Because if I scroll back left, where are there invisible parentheses here? Around the whole top and around the whole bottom. They exist when we write them this way and we take them for granted, but the calculator doesn't know that those are there. The calculator doesn't know that this is what they don't know that we mean that. Without the parentheses, they might have just thought that the D alone was dividing something. They don't know that. So we need whole top parentheses for sure. I'm pretty sure we need them for the whole bottom as well. I'm not as sure about that because of the way it's multiplying. We might get away without them, but I'm not going to roll the dice on that. I'm going to just make sure I know I'm good. And then we're almost cleaned up.
Close it up.
Close it up. Are we going to need to store E to get that other piece?
Yeah. No.
No. So just, how are we going to get the last piece?
180 minus
180 minus, so we could store it for that purpose, or we could just use
answer.
the answer button. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to use the answer button. So now what?
Display.
Display.
Angle is. Display. E. Or answer.
Either way. If you stored it as E, call it E. If you didn't store it as E, call it answer. And then finish with
180 minus C plus E.
I'm doing answer for mine, but if you named it E, that's fine. Problem with that,
C plus answer needs to be in parentheses.
we could either do C plus answer in parentheses,
Or change the addition to
or
subtraction.
just change the addition to subtract. Either way, that's all the same. And we're almost home.
Display. Angle is. Display. Answer.
Here's a way you could shorten this a smidge if you wanted to. You need your test. I didn't spray that yet. Small timeout on the recorder. A couple little places we could shrink this up. It's not super important the use of it, but sometimes in the world of coding, the less code you do, the happier somebody is about it, because it just takes up less memory. Your calculator has a limited amount of memory. Every time you type a letter, it uses a little bit of your memory in your calculator. You are not going to run out of memory in your calculator. Okay? But it could happen to someone somewhere. If you write something that's bigger than it needs to be, it can eat up more memory than it needs to eat up. So there are some places in here we could shrink this down a smidge, and some people would view that as better. Some people would view it maybe better the way it is. It's a little bit of a matter of taste or style. I mean, you deal with that in English class. If you write a 300-word essay, and that was your assignment, some teachers are very happy with the 300-word essay being 300 words. Some of them are happier if you gave them 380 words. Some of them are grouchier if you give them 380 words. You don't really know. That's sort of the beauty is in the eye of the beholder on stuff like that. But on this, there are some ways that we could shrink this. I already did that a little bit by not storing this. By not storing that, I saved a little bit of typing and a little bit of memory space in your machine. You notice anywhere else that you could shave a little bit of the steps? Okay.
Could you answer both sides at the same time?
Yeah. You could say back here, enter two sides, and have input A, input B without this second prompt. You could do that, and that would shrink us a little bit. Whereas another place we could do a similar thing.
The angle is.
Yeah, here we could say angles are, and hit them with 2 in a row without the secondary like titling on that. That's not right or wrong or better or worse. The beauty's in the eye of the beholder on that.
Bless you.
One thing you as a human will have to be careful of, unlike the program yesterday that was a little bit more conversational, where we knew these, and it said to us, the angle is this, with an opposite side of that, and the other side is here. Because of the way our program talks it through, we pretty much get everything in the right spot. Okay. On this, we know these, and the program says to us, here's the extra side, and we're good, we'll get that in the right spot. But then when it starts just saying angle is this, you might get those in the wrong spots. And you as a human just have to be careful to fix that problem in the human world. How could you fix that problem in the human world? How will you know what goes where?
Smaller side, smaller angle.
Smaller side goes with smaller angle. If you don't trust yourself to remember that, you might need to put a note on your own program to say, like, remember, smaller side goes with smaller angle. Don't mess that up, stupid. You know, or something along those lines, just to remind you, you might mess that up. You could also fix that maybe with a bunch of ifs. Okay, we did a program with ifs. So, but the ifs are gonna make this bigger, and in my opinion, that doesn't make it better. Okay, but you could go back and do some stuff with ifs back here. Could we have done law of signs with the right combination of ifs? You could. Like, if something was bigger than something else, then you could do law of signs. But I don't think that was worth the hassle either on that. Question about the SAS program?
I think for a couple of my programs, instead of angle is, I took out the is and said like opposite of b.
Yeah, what?
Would that work?
It can. The problem is that you as a person using it, B doesn't have a meaning to you.
Well, the way I think of it is like what I punch first and what I punch second is like what I punch first is A, what I punch second is B.
Then that would have meaning to you.
Okay.
Yeah, but in terms of, if I were ever using this particular program, the titles A, B, C, D, and E, they only really have meaning internal to the board right now. They wouldn't have meaning to me a year from now anymore. SSS is pretty obvious what you would know. You would know 3 sides. Would it matter which angles and stuff you did first? No. So you'd get any random angle done first. How would you get an angle done? Law of cosines. And it would look kind of like this, or it would look kind of like this, or it would look like something unrelated to either of those. What would the angle getting?
The bottom one.
It would look like the bottom one. So you'd have something that looks about like this. Maybe different letters, maybe in a different order, but in style, you'd have to do something that looks about like this to get an angle. Then when you go to get another angle, how would you do that?
Do the same thing.
Do the same
Switch
thing.
around a little.
Okay, it'd be some letters switched around, but it will be a second calculation that looks about like this. Then how would you get the third angle? Just one of these things. So the program that you'll do, you'll need to ask for the sides and get them. You'd have math like this twice. This, you'd have something along these lines filling both of these slots, and then a 180 thing to finish. And that's your homework is code in the one we did. Write the next one yourself, code that in, but also test these out. Find something either on that page with the 28 triangles or on a worksheet somewhere and try them and just make sure that they work. Questions? That's a wrap.
There's a wasp in here. You found him?
God.